Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the United States of a Movie podcast. The highlight of my week, and hopefully for you as well, as what we try to do here is talk about movies. We are movie fans that love to talk about movies, but we have a specific goal, an almost impossible goal, if you will, as we try to find the one movie to define each state in these United States. My name is Ollie Petchgrew. I have hosted movie shows back in the day. You might know me from ePowder Max. You might know me from right this minute, but right here, right now, I have two amazing co-hosts who are trying to help me answer this unanswerable question. Ryan Sandler, Will Hirsch, welcome back to the show.
Oh man, it's great to be here. Great to be here, fellas.
I'm so excited. Yeah, so excited to talk about one movie, all these movies, but one movie in particular.
One movie in particular. Yeah, a movie that set alight our text thread, the movie that I texted that I now want to start a podcast to only talk about this movie endlessly, week upon week. Why don't we just talk about that movie right now? Because who brought this one? Oh, Ryan, you brought this one to the table, didn't you? Because we're doing the state of Pennsylvania. And if you thought that it couldn't get weird, boy, oh boy, were you wrong. Ryan, what did you bring to the table?
Oh man, I brought the 1995 action-packed, bullet to the head, nonstop thrill ride, Sudden Death.
Oh,
Jean Claude Van Damme.
You better believe he brought Sudden Death, guys. Oh my God. Directed by David Hyams, if you haven't heard of him. He directed a few movies you may have heard of, but one of them being Time Cop with Jean Claude Van Damme.
Yeah.
Stars Jean Claude Van Damme and Powers Booth. Actually, let's be honest, it stars Powers Booth with the supporting role from Jean Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, for real.
It is a die-hard clone. It was written by AI. If I had to bet.
Back then, that's impressive. Yeah.
Honestly, one of the craziest movie watches that I have seen, to the point that I was laughing so hard I was crying. But we'll get to that movie eventually, because I'm probably going to save it to last, because I know we're going to talk about it for 3 hours. But Will, you brought a great movie, one that I've always wanted to see, actually, and it was a great watch. Tell us about your pick.
I picked it's in the top 5 Harrison Ford Amish movies, Witness.
The 1985 movie Witness, directed by Peter Weir, the Australian director, Oscar winner. He directed Master and Commander of the Truman Show, Gallipoli. Stars Harrison Ford, Kelly McGillis, you might recognize that name from Top Gun, Lucas Haas as a teeny tiny little boy, Danny Glover in a tiny little role of just being a bad guy. And Alexander Godunov, who everybody who's ever seen Die Hard knows as that German guy with the machine gun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That movie, that was a great movie. I really enjoyed that one.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's been on my list to watch for a while. I was like, I was watching one of my, I forget what, there's a YouTube show where they go to like a video store in France. And I want to say it was Christopher Nolan. I could be totally wrong. Was talking about like that movie in particular. And I put it immediately on my list. So when Pennsylvania came up, I was like, oh, perfect opportunity to watch this.
I'm glad you did. I remember putting it on when I was a teenager, because I'm like, hey man, Han Solo, Indiana Jones, movie with the girl from Top Gun. And like, I barely made it like 8 minutes in before I'm just like, I don't think this movie's for me. Because it just, it's very Peter Weir. And it was perfect for me at my age now. But the teenage boy of me was like, this movie, this sucks. And it does not suck. When I got
to the end of this movie, much like Master and Commander, I wish there was like a series of 10 of these movies, like a crime solve of the week starring Harrison Ford, just walking around solving crimes.
Absolutely. Where he goes to a different culture every week.
I know. I'm trying to figure out how we can do Master and Commander on this show.
They do, don't they go to Galapagos? Like, it's close enough to Florida.
Is that a state? All we just need is America to invade the Galapagos, and boys, we are off.
Joe Biden, get on that.
But there were 3 movies that were brought to the table. I bought one that I really wanted to kind of talk about, because I just find it as like a real underrated, excellently made movie. I bought 2012's Jack Reacher, directed by Christopher McQuarrie, One of those sort of like, basically that kicked off the relationship really with Tom Cruise that went on to make all the Mission Impossibles, starring Tom Cruise in his greatest ever method acting ever. If you've never seen a 5'6" tall man play a 6'4" monster, Jack Reacher is that movie. Also stars Rosamund Pike, David Oyelowo, there we go, Jay Courtney, and Werner Herzog as the scariest bad guy in movie history. Even my wife was like going, he's terrifying.
Oh my God. It was awesome.
They didn't even need to give him the glass eye. It was just, he's just already terrifying.
I was sure to set with a glass eye already. Don't you worry about it.
That's the cool thing. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, Werner Herzog is just a very famous director. German, right? I'm pretty sure he's German with that accent. But he's a very famous director, and he didn't play a character. He just played himself, basically, with a backstory. I mean, he's acting, but that is just his vibe. That is. I was just saying, can you imagine acting in a movie where Werner Herzog is your director? He's like giving you notes, and you're like, "Am I gonna die? Am I gonna die?"
Yeah. You understand why like all his movies had to star like Klaus Kinski, because that dude is also insane. Yeah. And it's like these are the only two people who could work together, because my God.
Let's go. We're gonna start with Jack Reacher, because like, what did you guys think about this movie? Because I have a very, very deep love for this movie, and I've read all the books. I've read at least 20 of them. I know there's been about 3 or 4 that have come out that I haven't quite, because they're co-written with his son. I'm like, no, I just want to read the originals. But One Shot, which is the one that this movie is based on, it was one of my favorite books. But this movie, I thought, as a Jack Reacher fan, delivered everything apart from a 6'4" guy. What do you guys think of this movie?
I mean, I don't know. I didn't know anything about the books. I think my dad had read some of them, and I remember him being excited about the film. But of course, breaking down the fact that Tom Cruise is a small guy and Jack Reacher is just this giant monster, like more so portrayed in the TV show. Yeah. But I enjoyed the movie. I completely forgot about it once it was out of my ethos, but watching it again, I was like, this movie's, it's a great like movie. I mean, he's an infallible detective, and I just love it. He cannot lose. Women are just obsessed with him. Everyone wants to fight him or fuck him. Yeah. And I'm on board.
He's got a photographic memory. He's the best. I love Jack Reacher.
Yeah. It's this is the first time I'd seen the movie. I've seen the show. I never even heard of the books before the first movie came out, because I remember the trailer very specifically is like, oh, he's coming and he's made a promise, and it's like making him seem like really scary, and you see Tom Cruise and it just says Jack Reacher, and I just remember going like, who? Like I was like, the movie was acting like I was supposed to know who that was. I'm like, all right. But having seen the movie, I actually like this better than the show. I enjoyed the show quite a bit, but for the reason that it's incredibly cheesy. Yeah. And the guy that got doing it is like literally just a big Hulk, like a shell of a person that they stuffed an actor into. It's crazy.
I love him.
But but the movie, I actually was able to buy into a little bit more, because in the show, when you see, a 90-pound guy be like, "You got a problem, Jack Reacher?" You're like, come on, he's going to tear you in half. Like, what are you doing?
It's like the John Wick complex too, where by the third henchman, you'd be like, okay, I guys, I got this. I got this. Yeah. You don't,
Yeah. But having it be Tom Cruise, I'm able to buy into it a little bit. I can buy fair. That like he's like surprising in a fight. Like, everything about it makes more sense. He's still like, like you said, all the ladies are like, who is this 50-year-old guy coming through the bar? But I don't care. It's one of those. It
works. It works. I think it works because it's Tom Cruise too. The dude is just incredible in every role.
I mean,
I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
When you hear, especially nowadays, when you hear written and directed by Christopher McQuarrie starring Tom Cruise, you're, especially when it comes to Mission Impossible, you're expecting just unstoppable action, just absolutely insane set pieces. Where I remember showing this with an old director of mine. I've been working with him since the very beginning when I got into TV, and we love movies. He's a big movie fan like you guys. And we watched this movie, and he really enjoyed it. But he got to the end, he's like, wow, that movie was really good considering like nothing happened. Yeah. It's like there's whole periods of the movie where Jack's just walking around. It's kind of reminds. I said to my missus, I go, it's like the Batman, the bit where in the Batman's walking around a crime scene. He just looks at things, And it's so well directed by Chris McQuarrie that, I mean, have you noticed that the first 10 minutes of the movie, there's no speaking until they're finally going, we need to find this guy, Jack Reacher. It's all done in silence. It's all done with looks. It's all done with information's given to you on the screen. And then when you've got a guy walking through the crime scene, it gives you certain close-ups, certain shots. And then when Jack's going through the crime scene, you see what he's thinking. And it's so well directed that I'm watching this going, it's it's honestly the kind of movie that nowadays would be a 45-minute procedural, police drama.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And they've made
it would be a
Tom
TV
Cruise
show
movie.
nowadays.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying is that's what I found so surprising. And it's still so engaging. Do you guys agree?
Oh yeah, I agree.
Oh,
I love that. I love the pace of this movie. I love that it is so much more grounded. For the mere fact that he's essentially a fucking superhero, it's still pretty tame. And the plot is pretty. I mean, I forgot the opening of the movie is pretty heavy. Like,
yes,
yeah, it's wild and it's done so well. I mean, it's a very engaging film. I was glued the entire time. I love it.
Yeah, that opening scene. There's a shot that I always ask, how have they done this? How have they done this? And it's the one with the shot got the scope. You've got the scope looking at the people, but then you also realize that around the scope, you see the background moving as it should be moving, and it's kind of blurry. And there's you see little things like the light reflecting off the glass, little plot points that pay off 40 minutes later, things like that. That I'm like, I still to this day I'm mystified as did they just put a sniper scope on a camera and just move it around? Because how did they get this shot? It's incredible.
Yeah, no, that is also like something I picked up on right away. Is like, if it was just like a 5-second shot, I wouldn't think anything of it. But because it goes on and on and on, I'm just like, wait a minute, hold on. Like, this is an effect that's happening. And I still don't quite know how they pulled it off.
Neither do I. They must have for real. They've got all of those characters like laid out in front of them. They're moving the camera around. Everybody's moving. Like, the action starts happening. That's the thing about this movie is it's very subtly doing very impressive filmmaking things that you just don't notice because you're just being told the story. And you go, wait a minute, how are they doing this?
And one thing I really appreciated about this movie, and I hate to keep comparing it to the show. Watch the show if you haven't seen it.
No, do watch the show because it is just like the books.
It's a good time, but it is ridiculous. But one of the things I thought was an interesting change is you really see in the movie, like when Jack Reacher is investigating a crime scene, it is all silent. It's all camera shots, and it's all like cutting, flashing back and forth, and there's no dialogue, as opposed to the show where he's like, can't you see what's going on here? Well, this guy, he's obviously a professional because he put cardboard over the body. And then this guy's an amateur because, and it's like, how can you possibly figure that out? But in this movie, it just shows like the same thing's happening, but just the caliber of filmmaking is just so much like McQuarrie's just good at his job. He knows what he's doing and it communicates it so much more effectively.
He is one of my absolute top favorite directors at the moment. I mean, of course, Christopher McQuarrie came into everybody's sort of consciousness for writing The Usual Suspects. That movie just blew up. Everyone was like, wow, that was just the movie of the year when it came out. People were talking about it. His follow-up, I actually saw in the theaters, Way of the Gun, which is a great movie, underrated. But then he just kind of vanished. And then he started coming back and he was kind of like Tom Cruise's script doctor. And he kind of worked with him on Valkyrie, and he kind of like, then he worked with him on Jack Reacher, then he was Edge of Tomorrow. And this is kind of like, which kicked off what has become one of the most successful partnerships in movie history with Tom Cruise and Chris McQuarrie of just creating crazy. I mean, he was involved in the script for Top Gun Maverick as well. Right. He gets it, man. He really knows how to write a movie. He really knows how to shoot a movie, and he doesn't really have a style. You know what I mean? Like, the cool thing about him in Mission Impossible is he always makes every Mission Impossible look and feel different. It's a different kind of movie. And I'm like, there's not many directors that can do that.
Yeah. It's he's kind of like in the latest movie, if you've seen Dead Reckoning, there's like a lot of stuff where he's like pulling from all the previous like Mission Impossible movies, like incorporating that into his filmmaking, which is really like amazing.
Something that I will get into one day, but by watching all of the behind the scenes, and I've been listening to all these podcasts. Like Chris McQuarrie sits down and does these 2-3 hour podcasts talking about each of the Mission Impossibles. Those movies are basically improvised. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know until like the entire closing scene of Mission Impossible 5, he goes, "Oh, we came up with that one day before and we shot it." Like, you have no idea. Like, the Mission Impossible movies are made like Mission Impossible action, as in they go, "I don't know, we'll just figure it out." They were like, we finished doing the fifth one 5 hours before the premiere. You know, shit like that. I'm just like, guys, are you kidding me? Like, you listen to, honestly, get into it, because you'll be astounded that, like, no joke, that some of the biggest scenes from Fallout, where you like certain stunts or things with a helicopter, were pure coincidence. Because, yeah, we're trying to figure it out. We had a location, and then I saw a helicopter taking off, and I go, "Oh, we could do that." And I'm like, are you kidding me? There wasn't 6 months of planning to do this? They're like, "No, just throw an IMAX camera on it and try not to kill Tom Cruise." What?
Jeez.
But I digress, because we're talking about Jack Reacher, and I've digressed even more because we haven't talked about the plot. Jack Reacher is the movie that talks about the titular character is basically a drifter. In every single one of the books, Jack is always just randomly on a bus on a way, just exploring America, because he spent his whole life serving overseas in the military as a crack military police investigator, who's just like a normal police officer, except with one difference: everyone I'm trying to arrest is a trained killer. And in this particular case, there has been a sniper attack, a mass shooting in Pittsburgh. 6 people shot by a sniper, and the person that's been accused of doing it is someone that he knows from history, a sniper from the military that has done stuff like this in the past. Long story short, Jack comes into town to take this guy out and make sure he goes to prison. And what he actually discovers is a sort of a grand conspiracy involving a organized crime group led by the Zek, which is Werner Herzog, who basically just goes around from city to city and builds bridges that no one needs and makes money. But because they want money, they start killing people. That's pretty much the plot of the movie.
Yeah, you know, for as many times as I've seen this movie, I always forget like what the plot of it is.
Mhm.
That's my only negative about this. Like, even getting through the end, I'm like, what? Why? It's always unclear to me like what his motivations are, but it doesn't matter. It's just
it's because it is police procedural type plot. It is a bunch of people just basically take advantage of local infrastructure and red tape and make money off it.
Get me Reacher. Like, I got a parking ticket. Get me Reacher.
I totally forgot until you said the bridges thing that's what Werner Herzog was doing. I was like we got to it and I was like, wait a second. Yeah, what was their plan? And it was like, oh yeah, they're trying to build
bridges.
Bridges. That old villain plot standby.
Yeah.
How many times has James Bond come up against a bridge builder?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Goddamn municipality of Pittsburgh.
So actually, there is something I do want to talk about, because while Werner Herzog is the bad guy, the other bad guy, the one that does the actual murders and things like that, is Jay Courtney. Will, you texted that you have an irrational hatred of Jay Courtney. I want to get into this.
I was debating whether or not I want to talk about it. It's like, okay, have you ever seen a wet slice of bread? You've seen Jai Courtney. Like, that's about the level of charisma that he has on screen. I'm only a little bitter. Like, I wouldn't really care that much if he didn't play Kyle Reese in a Terminator movie and ruin my life. So I don't know. Like, he's probably a nice guy. Like, I want to make it clear. I've never heard anything about him where it's like, oh, he really sucks. But man, that guy is just a black hole of like screen presence.
Really?
Well, it goes Tom Hardy, Logan Marshall Green, Jai Courtney.
Yeah, that's
terms
absolutely,
of,
absolutely correct.
I always look at him and I go, isn't that the guy from Avatar? No, that's Sam Worthington. The other Australian guy that looks like him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They do look exactly like each other.
And there's a reason why James Cameron said, oh, you can play Kyle Reese in my non-canon Terminator movie. I'm going to go with Sam Worthington for my $10 billion franchise.
I'm honestly surprised they brought him back for the second Avatar.
Well, actually, the funny thing is that I mean, even Sam Worthington even told the story as James Cameron came to him and he's like, look, here's the script without you, and here's the script with you. You choose. So don't mess me around, basically, on like, I'm going to take, he goes, you can either be in the movie or you can not be in the movie. Either way, I'm making Avatar 2. And I think that's like that's just James Cameron. I mean, oh my God, I would be like, okay, I guess I'll do it for $50.
Yeah, no, totally. Like whatever you need, James. Like, that would be me. But yeah, that's my Jai Courtney rant. I don't think he's a bad dude. It's just I've never been impressed by, like, I think the most he's ever acted is Suicide Squad, and he's terrible. So I don't know.
He's good in the Suicide Squad.
James the 3
Gunn's
seconds.
one. Yeah.
Or they kill him on, spoilers. They kill him on screen, and I was like, yeah, James Gunn gets it. He understands.
But so this movie is obviously shot around Pittsburgh. It is all of these movies actually. This is I'm really looking forward to this debate because they are all shot in and around Pennsylvania, all shot like on location,
finally.
Yeah. Like we planned it. But this movie like has got so many great bits, but the bit that really stood out for me, and it is a joy to watch, and there's a great 20 minutes behind the scenes just about this, which I've watched a few times. I watched it again after watching the movie, but is the car chase. The car chase, which honestly, there wasn't one. In the script, it says Jack drives away. As they started doing pre-production and just taking pictures, location scouting, they were like, we could build a really good car chase here. And that car chase does kind of like what I was saying, another one of those magic tricks that it's just doing a really good car chase, and then it's only a couple of minutes in that you realize in every single case and shot, it's all Tom Cruise driving. There are some really complex shots or long shots, or a car comes streaming out of a tunnel and it skids to a halt and slams into a wall, and the camera comes up and it's Tom Cruise. And it's like, that's the thing, is like, that's the magic trick, is like, it's one of the first like stunts with Tom Cruise. That's why Chris and Tom worked so well together. But you realize, oh, this is just Tom Cruise driving around Pittsburgh in a car like a maniac. And it's it's like Bullet, it's like an old school 70s car chase. And it's like, it's done so honestly. There's no music. It's just the sound of a V8 engine and tires screeching with a very angry Tom Cruise driving.
Yeah. In a car that was basically given to him by force. But I mean,
am I stealing your car?
Are you that surprised though that it's him driving when you get the arguably the best part of this movie is the Days of Thunder reunion?
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. I was gonna wait, but we'll drop it in.
Sorry.
No, but that's great, because halfway through the movie, suddenly Robert Duvall is in this movie, and you're like, oh, of course, God, Robert Duvall is in this movie. That's what this movie's great. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about that car chase, because it's like, even again, getting into the behind the scenes of it all, it's all just kind of like random. Like, for example, the bit where the car comes out, slams into the wall, and he's having trouble starting it, and like the bad guy's getting away, and it's a really cool bit in the scene, and it really slows things down. That was an accident. The car died. Tom just kept acting, goes, come on, finally got it started, peeled off. And Chris McCrory was like, no, that's great. That's going to work in the edit. I could use this. And that's what I mean. It's like, they just seem to go with the happy accidents and just like
the beat of jazz.
Yeah, well, they do though. That's the thing. That's exactly my point. Is these guys make movies like jazz. They just go with it. They feel it. They vibe it. Yeah. And that to me is what's so mind blowing about how many great movies these guys have made together.
Yeah. Considering their budget and like these are huge blockbusters, to have the flexibility to do that, you'd think everything was like so airtight, and for them to be able to pivot and do stuff like that on a production like this is wild.
There's so many good stunts in that car chase. Like, there's a bit, I mean, do you guys, I don't know if you clocked it, but there's a shot where David Oyelowo comes in his car. Tom Cruise literally skids up right into his car. They look at each other and Tom Cruise peels away all around it. And I'm like, how many actors in the world do you would trust to be like, all right, I'll put my car here, and then I'm going to let Tom Cruise drive at me at 80 miles an hour, skid to a halt into my car, and then drive around me. And I'm like, and that's, but again, instead of it being like super close up and big sort of arrows going, look what we're doing, it just is. It just is. Yeah. And I think that's what I love about this movie, is it's so understated.
I think it's a testament to Tom Cruise's, like, his work ethic too. I mean, the guy is just an animal when it comes to anything, and he absorbs knowledge and skills. I mean, if you've ever watched the behind the scenes on like Collateral, or it's just him operating the firearms and everything. It's just, I mean, he really immerses himself and takes it to another level. So it's no surprise that it's him driving these cars.
Yeah, he's one of those actors who's like really, he's not faking it. He's really into the process of making movies. He loves movies.
Yeah.
And and to give you kind of an insight into like how into it he is, there was a project I worked on one time, funny enough, with Jonathan Lipnicki from Jerry Maguire.
Oh, sure.
And he talked about like how Tom Cruise, like how just all the time he is constantly aware of if he moves too far to the left, he's like, wait, no, I'm out of the camera's like eye line and stuff. Like no matter where the camera's set up, he's got such situational awareness because he's done this so much. He knows exactly how he's framed. Like whenever they set up the camera, he talks with all the crew people, greets all the crew people, like up and down the line, gets to know people. Like he's so heavily involved in the filmmaking process and so knowledgeable about it. And I think that's one of the key ingredients. That's why he's Tom Cruise. Is that guy just knows what he's doing.
You think when he's done like he'll just transition into becoming a director at that point? Like
I wonder, because he's a real student of film. The guy, he really does like just love movies, and the things that he puts in movies are referenced from old movies as well. That I was wondering that same thing, because I know the guy can't run forever. He is 60 years old. The guy is fucking immortal. It's like, but like everyone's got to have a point where, you know what, running hurts. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Yeah.
So maybe he will be like a great director, but I think he's just going to go. I think he's just going to transition into a different level of being and go and live with
pretty much
forever.
Yeah.
Right.
But he is, to me, I mean, that's why I wanted to talk about this movie, because he is the movie star, and like you're saying, well, he understands the assignment. He wants to entertain. And it's like, I remember, it's the worst of them all, but I was watching behind the scenes of Mission Impossible 2. And it was the bit where he does this sort of, the stunt is he's on the rope and he jumps off from 100 feet and he stops just right in front of camera. And he's just doing it. He goes, again, so should we do it again? And it was talking about his work ethic. And it was when I was just getting started in television. And it was like, the thing about Tom, like you're saying, is first one there, last to leave. He's always having a great time. He's always talking with the crew. And I was like, that's how I want to be seen. So like when I worked in TV, for the longest time, I was always, whatever you need, we'll do it. Let's work together as a team. I was like, that guy, I want to be that guy, And I saw that just from watching Tom Cruise make movies. I want to be that guy.
Yeah, it's very aspirational in that respect. Like when it comes to filmmaking, the dude is who he is for a reason. And yeah, it's not surprising at all that he would be like, car chase scene, I'm gonna be the one driving the car.
Right.
I think that's the benefit of having Tom Cruise being the producer. When he is the guy signing the checks, it's like, we don't need insurance. I'm the guy. Let's do it. I firmly believe he's going to kill himself making a movie for us. And I think that's probably the way he wants to go out.
I mean, he's going to space for his next movie, right? Like
that's what they say.
That could be the movie.
He's returning home.
I was gonna say he's going back to the stars from when she came.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. Is like, so he's talking about this, and I want to go to space, and they're going, all right, well, you see, you'll have to qualify as an engineer, and he goes, okay,
fine.
So I'll qualify as an engineer and become an astronaut. I'm like, okay.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Okay. Tom's just like, what do you need me to do? Oh, I need to qualify on this Boeing helicopter, and it takes 12 weeks. I'll do it in 6.
Yeah,
and I'll,
really.
and I'll do something in this helicopter no one's ever done in their entire life. I'm like, you are insane, and I love you. He really is. Like I said, I have got just such a man crush on Tom Cruise. I watch everything he's done because he's always amazing. So what else? Like you say, Jack Reacher. That's the thing, is that it's like, because we're saying it's so understated as a movie. It's like there's one cool fight scene, there's one great car chase, and then there's a cool thing just being solved in the middle of it. I mean, like, who else in this movie do you guys want to talk about? Because like I thought, Rosamund Pike, she was doing great. David Oyelowo, it's so hard to say his name sometimes. Oyelowo, there we go. I thought he's great as well, and I thought that's spoiler alert, but like a little bit of the twist that involves him is like, even when you've seen the movie a million times, you still don't really feel like it's coming.
I for sure thought it was her dad, played famously.
Oh yeah,
the dad from Step Brothers.
Step Brothers, yeah.
Richard Jenkins, who's fantastic.
Yeah,
he's great in this as the district attorney.
But that's the thing too. This movie does such a good job at it's so rewatchable, even though it shouldn't be, because the plot is kind of paper thin, but it's still super engaging every time I see it. And I forget like the moment to moment like action, so to speak, really it's just so engaging. Like I'm on board. I don't care what happens. My only negative is that you already know that this character, Jack Reacher, can't fail. Like no one can top him, no one can beat him, no one can outsmart him, no one can hurt him. It's just and having Tom Cruise in that role makes it even more obvious. So it kind of takes the tension out of it a little bit for me. So
I get kind of what you mean. He's Batman. He's basically Batman.
Yeah,
you can't lose.
Well, he's specifically he's kind of like my least favorite version of Batman. The Batman who's ultra prepared and like he can do anything. I love it when Batman like is not an expert in everything, and like because there's plenty of versions like that where he gets overwhelmed, and I think that that's the best version. But this is like the classic like, no, I've been trained in every fight style. I photograph. I'm like Sherlock Holmes and Batman in one. It's just like
it's like what if Tom Cruise had all of Dustin Hoffman's skills from Rain Man, but also all of Arnold Schwarzenegger's skills from True Lies, and just mashed them together.
It's a fair cop. But thing is, he's a really fun character to read as well, because it's what he is like a physical manifestation of karma. You know, what I love about Jack Reacher is like he doesn't bring people to justice. He brings people to justice. You know, he messes people up. He kills them. Because they deserve it. He's got a line. And that's what I love about Jack Reacher is he has just a line. And as soon as you cross that line, he's like, all right, well, guess what? I got nothing better to do but fuck up your life from this point on, because you crossed the line and you made that woman upset or you hurt somebody. And I'm like, I have the ability to make you pay for it. And that's why it's so fun to watch him or to read about this character. It's just he goes out and messes these people up in just like a really fun way.
Well, that's the thing is like even like on the show, he's like this, you know, road justice minotaur who's just like annihilating like just these weaklings left and right. And I think the filmmaking in this movie really sells it. Like it's the same thing on paper. Like he's just as invincible, but the filmmaking in this really sells me on like it lets me buy into the movie a little bit more than the show does. The show is fun, and I think the books I'd feel the same way. They're fun, but the movie I think is like a level or two deeper.
I was telling you guys, if you want that Reacher experience, but in a much more fun show, definitely watch Banshee on Max, because it's basically the same thing.
I used to have to promo that show on EPAD on Max because I was a show on Cinemax, and
it's a blast, dude.
And it's like I've never watched it. And the irony of it is that because when I did the show in Asia you can't have any boobs or anything like that, right? So that's why I was telling you, we always had these terrible shows or movies. But and I'm like, that was one of those shows that, well, I'm not going to watch it in Asia because I've heard there's plenty of nudity, and so it's going to make no sense to me because it's all going to be cut out of the show. So so I have been waiting. Isn't it Homelander, right? The guy that plays Homelander.
I was going to say it's Anthony Starr, right?
Anthony Starr. Who's about Tom Cruise height.
Yeah, another short guy.
He brings this presence. I don't want to go too deep into the show, obviously. That's not what this is about. I'm just saying. I watched it back when it was on Max, and I constantly tell people it's a dude's show for dudes. Like it's like every episode they're just running out of ethnic groups for him to like. He'll fight Nazis and killers, and it's great. Just
the premise of that show, isn't it, that he's actually a criminal pretending to be a sheriff? Or something like that. Yeah. I will watch it. I will get in on this because I think Anthony Starr is great. But I like that you brought that up because it's that point of, I remember when it was announced and everyone was like, Tom Cruise is Jack Reacher. Everyone's like, oh, that's great. But also, what? Because, you know, again, as we said many times, the character is supposed to be enormous. But it was Lee Child that came out and he's like, yeah, but Tom Cruise has Jack Reacher energy. He has big dick energy, basically. He's like, he can... On screen, this guy has that kind of unstoppable force that Jack Reacher, the character, has. So, and it was interesting watching it again, like Will said, after watching the show, because it stood out to me like how just not tall he is. But by halfway through, like as he beats everyone,
doesn't matter.
You're just like,
it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's not about.
There was only one line in this movie that makes no sense.
Thought you'd be taller.
It's because you know, like the character. the character he has hands the size of dinner plates. He has fists the size of like ham hocks, right? So it's when they frame him for the murder before the car chase, and they're at the detective's at the motel, and he goes, "Who do you know who could kill this girl with just one punch?" And she goes, "Oh, you mean 12C?" And I'm like, Tom Cruise doesn't look like the kind of guy that can kill one punch.
No.
Yeah.
Now, so Tom Cruise, he was always supposed to play this character. Like when they were doing like a casting, they didn't have like a jack off where they were casting other characters for Jack Reacher.
I was wondering where you were going with that. A jack off. Get out, Ryan.
Still got it. No, but I'm serious. Like, were there other actors?
Oh, no, this is a Tom Cruise production. Tom Cruise says, I am going to play Jack Reacher. I'm going to buy the rights and I'm going to make these movies. He was going to be a franchise, but Edward Zwick killed it with the sequel, which is terrible.
It's not good.
I'm so disappointed.
Haven't seen it, so
don't watch it.
I don't know.
There's literally no redeeming quality. Everything that's good about this movie is bad in the other movie, basically.
It's such a shame too, because I mean, how many franchises does this prick need? But I still think it would have been such a good.
Yeah, I would have watched 5 more if they just kept it going. Start with Christian McQuarrie. I mean, I like Edward Zwick, but he's one of those directors that either hits it or absolutely flubs it.
Totally, yeah.
He's either it's a classic or it's a stone cold, just abysmal. Just like that's the thing about Edward Zwick. You never quite know which one you're gonna get, which is a shame.
Kind of like a David Ayer, who's like, he'll come out with like, make Training Day, and then you're like, and then he'll make an End of Watch, and then
nothing
Bright.
else.
You're like, okay.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, I do like with David Ayer there. It was like he made like Training Day, a movie about 2 guys driving around in a cop car in LA, and then he made End of Watch, a movie about 2 guys driving around in a cop car in LA, and then he made Bright, the supernatural movie about 2 guys driving around in a cop car in LA. I was like,
it should be right up his alley.
He's got a stick.
Yeah. End of Watch is good though. Everyone should watch that.
Yes, I agree.
Anyway,
I started that once. I turned it off because I was watching it during the day, but it's because the language on that movie was every other word is a slur or a massive swear word.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, trust me, I swear around my children, but even I was like, I cannot be watching this movie right now. There's been 100 swear words.
So you just watch Bad Boys 2 instead?
Yeah, exactly. I just want some casual racism.
Take the edge off.
Better.
This is too real. It's too real.
Guys, come in and we're going to watch a little bit of homophobia. Come on. It's going to be funny. We're going to throw the F slur around. Let's talk for just a little bit. Let's talk a little bit more about Werner Herzog. You guys just go. What did you guys feel about Werner?
I mean, it's fantastic. He's such a good villain. And was this like his first? I mean, I know they put him in Mandalorian, but was he acting in other things as a villain? Like, I mean, you can't put him in anything. I mean, I know him from that Rick and Morty episode, which I love.
Right.
But
I don't know if he's been in a whole lot of. I mean, because he does so many documentaries, I'm so used to seeing him on camera and hearing his voice. I can't remember if this is like one of his bigger acting things. And I was trying to remember if this came out before Mandalorian, but
yes, it did. Yeah, this is 2012.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this, I love Werner Herzog. He's just, his movies are. I'm not 100% like on board with all of his movies. I think he's made a couple duds, but I love hearing the guy talk. He's got such an interesting thought process, and super intelligent in thinking about the way he makes his movies, and such an interesting philosophy. But it's also, he's kind of like David Cronenberg, and like when he does show up as an actor in something, it's such a delight, because both of them are not acting, they're just basically doing themselves. Cronenberg,
exactly. Yeah.
Cronenberg, like he recently, like he's on Star Trek Discovery as basically himself, and like just showing up as David Cronenberg in Star Trek, and it's a delight every time he's on screen. I'm so happy. But Werner Herzog, it's the same thing. He just shows up. It's like, I am here to play creepy bad guy number 1. I will do this role to the best of my abilities, and it's fantastic. I love it.
He's just a walking Bond.
Bite off your fingers.
Yeah.
The casting nerd is like, oh, okay. Oh, no, what?
I wouldn't be surprised after everything we learned if that was improv, where he's just telling the guy like, I want to see if I can get him to bite his fingers off on camera. What? Werner, what are you talking? Yeah. See if he does it. Jai, stop crying. We're
You
doing the
do a
scene.
good Werner Herzog, Will. I really like this. You keep going.
Now,
really,
Iggy.
I love the movie Grizzly Man. In case you can't tell,
Yeah.
that was one of my favorite documentaries. So
It's he is. I remember saying to my missus, like, can you imagine if Werner Herzog was your grandpa? You know, he's like,
Oh my
would
God.
you like a little sweetie?
I
No,
wish.
no, I wouldn't. Like,
I wish.
it's just like, do you want to go and hang out with grandpa? No, he's
Come on.
terrifying.
Come over here and sit on Grandpa's lap.
God,
I will read you many tales in my foreign land.
this is the part where the
do it.
woodsman cuts open the big bad wolf. The guts spill open. Like, oh, Grandpa.
I'm
do this all
so
day.
jealous. You guys both do such a good Werner Herzog. It's like-
I'm actually doing, for the record, I'm doing Paul F. Tompkins impersonating
Yeah.
Werner Herzog, which is, if you get a chance to hear him do it on Comedy Bang Bang, is
Yes.
otherworldly.
Ah,
Yeah,
good God.
and do yourselves a favor, like go look up Werner Herzog talking about WrestleMania. It's like that's as close to Nirvana as you could possibly
Yeah,
get.
it's fantastic.
It's amazing.
Movie ends off with a pretty cool scene. What I like about this is that, you know, and Jack Reacher, they do this, is like Jack fights dirty. You know, Jack he's nobody's friend, and like he'll kick you in the nuts, he'll gouge your eyes out. He's like, I'm just here to hurt you.
Yeah, it's good
I like-
gouge in this movie.
I like the there's also like comedy in this movie, which is quite interesting. There's moments of like, the one that I love the most is when he's in the crack house, which I, by the way, suggest is the exact same house that that Jean Claude Van Damme's ex-wife lives in Sudden Death.
I wouldn't be shocked.
I think it's the same house. There's the same establishing shot. But in that scene where there's the two guys, the baseball bat and the thing, and so he gets knocked out into the bathtub, and these two guys are just trying so
Jesus
hard to hit him.
Christ.
Yeah.
But they keep getting in each other's way and trashing everything. It's such a funny scene, and then I got it, and then he hits the guy in the face. Like,
it plays as, it's funny, but it plays as such a real moment too.
Yeah.
Like if you were to actually like try to swing a bat in a bathroom that small,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a Three Stooges routine. And I just love that Tom Cruise is just watching it happen. Like, do you guys need help beating me up? Like, you seem like you're in trouble.
I was waiting for him to like look at the camera like Jim from The Office and just do it.
Right.
yeah. Right. Tuesdays. Can't get good help nowadays. But like, because he definitely, the thing is, I think that Tom really gets the character, like to that point of, there's that moment of when you see the line getting crossed where he's on the phone and they've got like, we've got what's her face. And he's like, I don't care. And then he goes, you know what? Now you've pissed off. Calls back and goes, no, you know what? I'm gonna drink your blood out of my boot, and then like I'm going to kill you. And I'm like, and he does, and I find it so satisfying. You know, he just beats the ever living shit out of Jai Courtney, and then just just kills him with his boot. You dead? Love it.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah,
Robert Duvall too. All right, so that's this movie. It's great. I really just wanted to talk about, because I wanted to talk about Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie, because Edge of Tomorrow, you know, that script, that is one of the best, I think, original scripts and original movies of the last sort of 10 years, greatly underrated as well.
And an adaptation as well. It's an adaptation.
It's a manga,
of like,
right?
Yeah, and if anybody's read the manga, it's one of these.
All You Need Is Kill? Is that it?
All You Need to Kill, which fantastic title,
Yeah.
like incredible title. But to just talk about that real quick, it's one of these. I don't know if this will ever happen again. All the changes they made to the source material are not better or worse. They're just as good as like the original ideas in there. It's one of these weird, like every change they made is exactly as good conceptually as the original ideas in there. I've never seen anything like it where they do character swaps and character changes, but all of them work just as well. Totally bizarre.
Long rumored sequel.
Still waiting for it. Yeah, Emily Blunt's on board.
I would, exactly. Everyone's on board. They just
But now she's officially too old for Tom Cruise, so he's got to figure something out there. Yeah.
So
that was the distracting thing in this movie, is like all the women are like, oh my god, he's so handsome, and it's like, you are like 19.
You're 35.
That is
years
an
younger than
old
that,
man.
Yeah.
What are you all doing?
That's Werner Herzog.
Yeah, he's only 5 years younger than Werner Herzog.
Oh my god.
You never bloody know. I bet he bloody is. You know, that's what's absolutely bonkers to me right now. That movie is dope, and I watch it all the time. But let's skip on over. Let's segue a little bit, because, like I said, as much as I sort of think that Jack Reacher is kind of like an understated movie, let's go even more understated. Let's jump into to Witness, which, like I said before, directed by Peter Weir. This movie from the get-go, I think the thing is, like I said, I have only seen a few Peter Weir movies, and one of the ones that's my absolute favorite, as Ryan has referenced, is Master and Commander: Far Side of the World. Is the ultimate Sunday dad movie for me.
Yep.
If it is even 1 minute or an hour in, if I was flicking on television, I'm watching the whole thing. And I don't understand why I love it so much. But I was watching Witness, because it's a movie it's not Arm, it's more Amish. Terrible Ryan's face right now. But I was honestly worried that I was getting into this sort of 80s movie, and it's like, oh, we're gonna, it's a crime thingamabob and the Amish are involved, and I was kind of feeling like they were going to be used as a prop. Whereas within 10 minutes of watching this movie, I'm like, did they make this movie with the Amish in, like, it feels like a documentary. That's how I describe this movie. Yeah. It feels like a documentary. Have any of you guys seen this movie before either?
No, I hadn't seen it. I'd kind of heard of it, but it was way before my time, and I was it never struck me as like my type of film to watch. But I really enjoyed it, and definitely, like you were saying, it subverted my expectations. I thought it was going to go one way, and it really didn't. This movie brought to you by Big Amish. I thought it was like we were saying earlier, it reminded me of that weird Tim Allen and Kirstie Alley movie where they also have to escape and pretend to be Amish, but it's very different.
Yeah, it was a big craze in the 80s and 90s. Pretending to be Amish was kind of a thing for a while. I had never seen this movie either. I had heard of it, but I never sought it out. And like I said, it only recently came on my radar. But I really, really dug it. And
I kept thinking of the Weird Al song the whole time I'm watching this movie. I couldn't escape it, dude.
Yeah, I think I even sent a text in the text thread.
The perfect gift for sure.
Yeah, I really dug it. And the cast was great too, even though like it's like Danny Glover's playing such a like thankless role.
Yeah,
only a couple years.
I thought he was too young for this shit.
Oh, the irony! In just 2 years, he would only be too old.
Yeah, it was interesting because he turned up and I assumed it was going to be a big role, and it was like. But then the more I thought about it, I go, "Oh, this is 85," and then I'm looking at him going, "Oh, he's actually quite young," and like it's surprisingly small role for him that it was but also really good. And then also we everyone was clocking in the first 5 minutes. Is that Viggo Mortensen? You know what I mean? It's like, just
baby Viggo Mortensen.
Good old Viggo Morgenstein.
Yeah. And then some other kid who basically probably didn't have a career after this. We don't even need to talk about the child. Big nobody, I say. And who was what was her name? Kelly McGillis.
Kelly McGillis.
Yes.
Very convincing Amish act. Very like there. I mean, I famously know her obviously from Top Gun and not much else. But seeing her in this, like she really escaped into that role too. I thought it was a fantastic job.
That was one of those things of like,
very convincing.
I got into looking at it. So it was shot as like you'd expect, for real, in all of those areas. There were a few Amish that said, yeah, we will come on as like, we'll help build things and we'll help do this, but they didn't want to be on camera. So everyone on camera is basically Mennonite, sort of like playing Amish. But I think the thing that I really, really respected about the movie is nothing about the movie is anything to do with the Amish, if you know what I mean. It just it's they're just people. They're going on about their lives. In no way is it going, isn't this weird? Isn't this weird? It's just the reality of where the story's being told, and I loved that. I was like, that was something that was surprising to me.
Until they hit Rumspringa, then it's all bets are off, baby. That's when they go hog wild.
But I like that the plot of the movie is essentially taken. It's a Amish mother and child go into the big city, and within 5 minutes have witnessed a double murder. It's like, never go to the big city, guys, ever. Pittsburgh or Pittsburgh, it's the worst.
Yeah, and the guy who gets murdered is, say it with me, the commander from Star Trek: The Next Generation, and Data is a superior officer. That's what we were all going to say, right?
I knew him from that guy. I know the guy. As soon as I saw him, I was like, oh, I know that guy. And he didn't stick around long enough.
It's the campaign manager from Black Sheep.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the other work people know him from. Yeah. Star Trek: The Next Generation, that one episode, and Black Sheep.
Yep.
So, all right. So the plot of the movie, which is essentially like I was saying, is Lucas Haas and his mum, Kelly McGillis. They go into the big city. Is it which is Philadelphia? And while they're waiting to take a train to Boston, Lucas Haas has to go to the bathroom, and while he's there, he witnesses, hence the title, Danny Glover and another guy, who is just basically just another guy, kill what turns out to be an undercover police officer, slit his throat. He's the only witness. And I do give this movie credit, because I actually had to rewind, because it happens so quickly. There's just a very big twist suddenly, which is like, Harrison Ford basically goes to his superior, and he's like, all right, I think I know what's going on here. There was like all of this stuff used to make amphetamines was put into our evidence locker. It's all gone. That's worth like $22 million. And the boss is like, wow, who knows about this? And just me and you. And the very next scene, Danny Glover turns up and like shoots Harrison Ford and almost kills him. And I'm like, I backed up. I was like, wait a minute, I've missed something. Like I need to pay more attention. Like, oh shit, okay, here we go. The bad guy is his boss, kind of.
I mean, it was pretty fucking obvious, dude. It was like, when the second he's like, who else knows about this? You're like, oh no.
Yeah, it's great.
So it kicks off, which is kind of like the point of the movie, is that now like suddenly Harrison Ford, who's kind of like his Detective John Book, he goes strictly by the book. He is basically shot, injured, realize they're in trouble, so they go off back to Amish country, and go and hide among the community. He's injured, and then of course in this community there's no real like records, there's no phone records, there's like addresses, so they essentially
what is it? Their last name is like Lap, and he's like, we've got 20,000 of those motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Do call them. They don't have phones.
Yeah, you're welcome to come down and try, buddy.
Yeah.
So that's essentially the premise of the movie, and it's great, like long periods of like no one really speaking, and it felt so real. I think one of my favorite scenes was the barn raising. I reckon I was sitting there going, if I had put money on it, I reckon they just shot that in one day. I reckon they actually just put up a barn. I mean, because I thought it was kind of cool. You see Harrison Ford up there, and correct me if I'm wrong, Harrison Ford was a carpenter when he went off and did Star Wars. You know what I mean? So he worked as a carpenter on film sets, kind of thing, in the same way that kind of like Bill Paxton used to do very similar. He used to be like a fixer on sets, and he's just, you've got a bit of a personality. You should do our movie. The end.
The Tom Cruise of his day, sure.
Yeah,
just an expert.
But like, do you guys?
A Jack Reacher of all trades.
I mean, you could kind of see his carpentry skills. Like that, this guy's been in a Harrison Ford, that he's been doing it for a while. Especially when he takes like that
lathe,
long piece of wood, and he's just freehand, not even like holding up against something. Takes like a saw. And it's just hacking off, just freehand hacking off a piece of wood while he's like way up in the air. And it's like, oh, this guy's a carpenter for real life. Like he's been doing this kind of thing for a while. I don't think there's any other way to shoot that scene other than you get like 100 people and you raise a barn.
Oh yeah,
I think that's the only way you shoot it.
This was a tough watch after. I should have watched this before Jack Reacher, because it's a similar like detective kind of thriller. This one really does take its time and is paced very differently, but in like the best way. I mean, it's almost like two different movies rolled into one.
Yeah.
So I tell you this much: it does make Philadelphia look like an absolute shithole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again,
It makes Philip.
Well, it is.
a major city in the 80s, let's be honest, they were all like, think back to like watching Coming to America. Like Queens looks like
they're all crack dens, and I'm from Queens, so that, I mean, they're all crack dens. That's it. It's all the downtown is just a hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah. I did like how like we at the very beginning, so they get Lucas Haas's statement, and he says, "Oh, looks like your partner but bigger." So his partner is like a smaller guy, looks like Danny Glover. He's like, "Oh, he's supposed to be bigger, but so a bigger guy, and he's black like my partner." Okay. The next scene is they just drive to a bar. They just drive to a bar, grab the biggest black guy they can find.
Yeah.
Abuse his civil rights, press his face against the glass, right? And the guy goes, "It's not him." And then he goes, "Oh, sorry, my bad." And the guy was like, "No, it's fine." It's
Yeah, laughing.
About
Oh.
it. It's like,
see you next week.
Yeah, it's a little game they play.
That's so funny. Like, are you kidding me? Why are you okay with the fact?
Sorry, Carl. One of these days, though,
It's gonna be you.
I did commit a crime. You just haven't figured it out yet. Like,
I'm gonna find the right child witness, and we're gonna get you, pal.
Something that as well, everything about this movie is understated. One thing that I thought was really well done, and kept kind of like ambiguous to a point, but is just that Kelly McGillis is kind of horny for Harrison Ford. She's like, she's feeling feelings that she shouldn't be feeling. Yeah, I know. Who isn't? I mean, Christ almighty.
It's 80s Harrison Ford. Yeah,
it's 80s Harrison Ford. Christ almighty. If I was like, God, it makes me feel some kind of way. The guy's handsome. Because actually, he's building that thing. Like, dude, that is a handsome dude. But like, no, like, is that she played that really well. And of course, with Peter Weir's hand on the wheel, like, you see it and you see the desire, but you've also got the kind of the B plot of, well, she's also got this fella, this Amish guy.
Yeah.
The Alexander Goodunov character, who at the beginning, the middle, and the end, like at the end, he's like, well, cool, I guess I'm just going to get Kelly McGillis. But there's this whole thing inside her that she's like, but also it's Harrison Ford, and he's so wild and crazy, and he's
my loins. But you're right, but it was played it was restrained. Like it was held back. It wasn't, it was there, but it was unassuming. But it was still like tenuous and spicy,
I have a question for you guys, because this is the game we're going to play. It's time to play Did They Bone? Because they don't in the movie. They have a very awkward kissing scene. That was
you're talking about Danny Glover and Harrison Ford.
Somebody's reading my diary.
but it's kind of like, I was even looking into this. Is that there was another scene that they cut out, which was them explaining their feelings for each other, and Peter Weir cut it out, even though the studio said keep it in. He goes, no, it's all being told in their faces. It's all being told, which it is, to be honest. Yeah. But it's that one thing is, do you think they boned or not? Because
you're in the bone camp. You're in the bone zone.
No. Sorry, what did you say?
I said you're in the bone zone.
Yeah, I want to see, like, did they go to the bone zone? What do you guys think?
I don't think so.
Now that you bring it up, it would not shock me if they did, because I mean, this is Harrison Ford before he met Callista Flockhart. So
no, I didn't mean in real life. I mean,
in the movie.
I mean the characters. I
don't mean to disparage the character of Harrison Ford in real life. But yes, the answer to both questions is yes.
They were. You mean to tell me you think they were churning some serious butter? Is what's happening. Right? They were mashing it.
Absolutely.
She raised his barn.
Yeah.
Nice.
So there's a cool bit. There's a good scene where, like, just some douchebags bully the Amish. They just like
because of course it wouldn't be. You have to. That has to be.
It's the 80s. It's the 80s. You had to have bullies in there.
Yeah. Gotta bully some Amish, and then Harrison Ford beats the crap out of them. And this is like, nowadays it would be a viral video kind of thing, but it's the thing that sort of exposes them to the bad guys, which sets up this moment towards the end where the three bad guys rock up with some weapons, and Harrison Ford takes them out Amish style. He takes one of them out with corn, which is really good. But I really like that shot. It's a very imposing, intimidating shot of the three of them walking towards their community holding shotguns. And it's like, I really want to watch this movie again, just to really just appreciate how the story is told and how it makes you feel uncomfortable or comfortable. And it's like Peter Weir is like, he is really, really good. He does. And then even this, the shootout, like it's not a long drawn out like thing. It's not a big action scene. It's tension. He takes one guy out with corn, then he gets his weapon, very quickly takes out Danny Glover. And then you get this sort of scene where it's his boss has got the gun, and he basically, how does Harrison Ford? He just goes, no. You know, they really
he talks him out of it. Like,
that's the thing. How many movies do you know that have the balls?
He uses his words, guys. He uses his words. More movies
the thing is, he actually uses his fucking words. I'm at the end of it going, there's not many movies in the world that have that kind of balls.
For a split second, I thought he was going to convince the guy to just shoot himself.
Yeah.
I thought he was put a fucking bullet in his own head. And I was like,
that's what I kind of dug about it, is it's like, you know, they Amish turn up and it's just like, and they're not being threatening. It's just, well, what are you going to do? There's 200 witnesses. You know, it's just, what are you going to do? Just stop it. Stop it, you. Wag a finger, and he goes, okay, the end.
Yeah, you're right.
I almost thought he was going to hit him with like a rolled up newspaper and just be like, stop, put the gun down.
Stop it.
Like a little spray water bottle, or shake his keys at him or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
give him a good old fashioned talking to. That's what.
But like,
I was going to say that's kind of like, if you're the bad guy in that situation, what are you going to do? You can't shoot 200 people. You know, you're kind of, you can try.
Unless it's the next movie we're about to talk about.
Which we were about to jump to. But I was like, I feel like with Peter Weir, it's what would actually happen?
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to Michael Bay goes, what would be ridiculous and cool in this situation? You know, like Harrison Ford would have the Amish would have actually formed one giant Amish robot and would have then, like, you know, taken out all the bad guys as the sun was setting. And then there'd be a close-up of Kelly Miller Gillis's ass for some reason. And then the credits would roll with a guitar solo, and Michael Bay would make $1 billion.
Yep.
Hold on, I'm writing all this down.
Good. Make sure you get that down, because that is an amazing goddamn movie. But you know what?
Mecha Amish.
Witness is a movie that I thought freaking fantastic, beautifully shot. Everything made sense, so well acted. Like you said, I believed, because there's whole portions of the movie where they're just speaking Dutch to each other, and there's no subtitles.
I was going to ask, because I rented this on Vudu, and it just says speaking German, but it doesn't say.
I got no subtitles when I was watching it.
Me neither.
And but then you notice when they're only talking to each other, they're speaking in English so we can understand. So I think it's supposed to be you know, the way they call the English. You know. Anyone else that's not them. I thought that was very clever as well.
So if you were in Pennsylvania, you would just be that English in Pennsylvania.
I would be that Englishman.
that Englishman in Pennsylvania.
But let's move away from understated. Let's do what we've been gagging to do since we logged on.
Yes.
Let's talk about the other movie on this list. What may be the greatest movie experience I've ever had. I've honestly, I need to talk about this movie for the next 3 hours. Let's talk about 1995's Sudden Death. Now, guys, this may surprise you. This was the first time I've ever seen this movie. So
you heard of it though?
I was aware of it. I know for a fact I definitely saw about 5 minutes of it once, because it was on the TV at my boarding school. I just walked through during a fight scene. I wish I could get into the plot of this movie, but I genuinely can't. Because I mean,
you're a fool for thinking the plot even matters in this movie.
Yeah,
because even I was like, I don't understand what it is, but it doesn't matter.
The fundamentals of it being that Jean Claude Van Damme is a traumatized fireman who now works as the fire marshal for the stadium where the Pittsburgh Penguins are playing in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup, which also has the vice president at it. And basically, Powers Booth is a rogue Secret Service agent who comes to try and get dark government money. You know what? I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
but
Doesn't matter.
But it's like they looked at every Die Hard movie, every Die Hard clone movie that existed before 1995, and instead of sort of thinking maybe we could do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, they said, no, let's do all of it. Let's do every single. Let's just do 17 3-minute scenes that do all these different things and stitch it together in what way? In what way? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The one conceit, the one thing about this movie that I will give credit is the multiple ticking clocks of it all. Is that the bad guy basically says you've got to have a certain amount of money by the end of the first period, certain amount by the end of the second period, the end of the third period, and then so by the end of the game, and then of course, spoiler alert from the title of the movie, we go to sudden death. Then I was like, I do like that they give us ticking clock after ticking clock after ticking clock.
Yeah, one ticking clock is not enough for this movie. Like it needs like 9. Because not only are there the game clocks, there's also like bombs that are on different timers, bombs that are not on timers, bombs that are in toys. Sometimes they're just firecrackers that are in toys, just that you set off in like popcorn factories. I don't understand like anything about this movie, and I love it dearly.
Yeah,
this
was a blast to watch. You'd be impressed to know that Schwarzenegger turned this down because he had just finished filming True Lies. Stallone turned this down because he thought the script was horrible. And Bruce Willis turned this down because he was going to film Die Hard with a Vengeance. And he called Jean Claude Van Damme. He's like, I'm on the next flight, baby. Let's do this.
Yes. That Stallone turning this down is hilarious. That man did Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Yeah.
Like
he turned this down because the script was bad. He didn't offer to rewrite it.
Yeah.
He didn't want
I
to
just watched
credit.
Cobra last night. He could have totally rewritten it.
Yeah, man.
It's I will say though, like I told you guys there were a couple of absolutely world-class camera moves in this movie. The very first one being the opening shot of there's a house on fire. Crane comes all the way down. House on fire, fireman. Follow fireman into the house that's on fire. Go through. Now there's a floor missing. Go down into the basement. Go into a back room and end up on a close-up of Jean Claude Van Damme and this young girl. That I was like, holy shit! Is this movie good?
I thought it was really fucked up.
No,
I thought it was really fucked up. He killed that kid. No.
That's the thing is we've just done this camera move, and I'm like, oh, this is.
He's a hero. He's a hero.
And then no one's coming to rescue him. The house comes down, and then we just get this close up of this adorable blonde child like this, eyes open, just dead. Oh, dead, and it goes 2 years later. I'm like, wow, this is how it's starting.
Much like The Untouchables, this movie opens with the death of a child.
I just love it.
Incredible.
And it goes 2 years into the future, and then, like I said, guys, my theory is that Jack Reacher is technically a sequel to Sudden Death, and that Jean-Claude Van Damme's ex-wife is the crack mum from Jack Reacher Outside, because that, I swear to God, I'm telling you, is the same house. Because even the missus goes, you know what? I think you're right. That looks like the exact same shot from Jack Reacher. We're like, right, this is. Maybe it's just the only pretty street in the whole of Pittsburgh.
Well, Christopher McQuarrie is a notorious, not only a Penguins fan, but a Sudden Death fan.
Right. He said it's his favorite movie of all time, right?
On this podcast.
You can see like the city in the background, same way you can in Jack Reacher. So I would not have a hard time believing that this is like either the same neighborhood or the same house.
Yeah. There are so
give me the Sudden Death house.
There are so many things about this movie that just didn't make any sense. Like, for example, like
name one. Name
200. You can't.
The constant ticking clock of it all is there'd be scenes where like 3 seconds have passed and it goes back to the clock and it's 3 minutes later, and other scenes where 20 minutes of movie has passed, it cuts back to the clock and it's ticked down 90 seconds from the last time we've seen it.
Right.
Okay,
they would randomly just put times up there, just like, the clock is still ticking. You're like, there was no sense of any.
The time is irrelevant. It's the ticking that matters. But I love, everything set up in this movie has like major payoffs, like him doing the sign language with his kids. Oh yeah, guys, his kids are at this hockey game.
That's right. Not one, 2 kids. and they get separated as well. I'm like,
this one kid, his son is just, he thinks his dad is a failure. He's not a firefighter anymore, and his daughter's very defensive. And
I mean, that girl did die. Technically, the kid's right. His dad is a failure.
True.
Kid ain't wrong.
The one thing he's like, hey, do you want to go into the locker room? I'm like, whoa, you're just gonna bring this kid into this NHL player's locker room? These fucking dongs hanging out and everything.
Being shown around by like the coach. And it's like, wow, this is a really.
And it's all the players. Yeah.
It's just a fire marshal. And it's like, come on in, no problem. It's like, yeah, meet my son. This is the fire marshal. He keeps us alive. I'm like, what?
Yeah. He changes fucking light bulbs.
Yeah.
There's, you were saying setup and payoff. There are certain things that you think are setting up to be paid off later in the movie that they then pay off within 5 seconds as well. It's just like, and then there was, I think the weirdest of them all was when we almost meet the blonde girl that is inside the suit, the Pittsburgh Penguin suit. But we meet her at the very beginning when she goes off with one of her kids, just the back of her head. We only meet the back of her head, and then she's in passing, and then she's just some random blonde character that I think must have really angered the editor or the director, because she's essentially cut out of this movie. She just doesn't exist.
Yeah, no shots from her angle at all to introduce her. And like, he calls her a name, like she's an
absolute, she's an absolute smoke show, because the little boy is just like, oh my god, who's that? And he's like, spoiler alert, that's the woman inside the penguin suit.
It was so.
That's right, women can be penguins too.
And
it's such a progressive movie.
Yeah.
So this is the thing, guys, because we were texting. Like, I was watching the movie about 40 minutes ahead of Will. I am texting. I maybe once every minute of this movie, as I'm just going, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this. I'm like, we're going to have to talk about the kitchen fight scene. Okay, there's another kitchen fight scene we're going to have to talk about, because we're going to do a second fight scene in this kitchen. It's like, what I love about the stadium is the metal workshop. I mean, like, all stadiums have a metal workshop.
Now, I forget. Is there a double cross in this movie?
I was going to bring this up. I think all 3 of our movies have a double cross.
Sure. Yeah. Well, every great movie does.
Yeah. So that was fantastic. It's like, by the time we got to this movie, I'm like, there's a double cross in this film as well.
You're right. We've got the corrupt cop, and the corrupt Secret Service agent. I'm like, well played.
Fantastic.
Hallmark of a good movie too. I think 30 minutes into this movie, the amount of people that have a bullet put in their head in front of a small child is shocking.
Yeah.
That screenshot of the penguin,
that was great.
Shooting the guy in the head. That's my background now on my computer. Like, that's
this movie hands out headshots like it's Oprah dumping them out to her audience. Like, you get a headshot. You get a headshot. It's insane how many people casually just get blasted in the fucking face.
That's something I really enjoyed. Is that I'll tell you this much: as bad guys, they were pretty bad. They if they made a threat, they paid off on it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, the mayor's dead. Mayor's wife's dead as well. It's just
the chef. The chef. This dude was in her house eating her Fig Newtons.
Yeah,
you're done. I don't need you anymore.
Yeah, Mrs. Roper from Three's Company. Boom, she's dead. That's right, because it's that guy, that extra character, the guy with the earring or whatever, that's just going around causing trouble casually and shooting RPGs.
Oh, that Austin Powers Soprano, as I call him, like, just like somebody who's like, not only a mobster but also has the frilliest pink shirt I've ever seen in my life. What a choice!
It's called fashion. Look it up.
What a choice!
So the movie for me, it hit like, just Captain Crazy Town, when he has a full-on fight scene with someone in the penguin outfit, and at no point does the hat kind of like the head come up, and I'm watching this full fight scene here, and this I can't believe this is happening. It may not surprise you that the original writing of this script, it was written as a spoof. It was written as a die-hard spoof, and they were like, let's just make it real. It's like,
man.
But we'll keep the spoof, because it, at all points,
now that you say that, it does
insane.
Feel like a Leslie Nielsen type.
Naked Gun 4.
Naked Gun, yeah.
I can't overstate how hard I was laughing when I'm like watching this fight scene with the penguin mascot, and I'm just like, now, take off the head, take off the stuff, and then there's a comedy beat. It's not played for laughs, but there's a part where Jean Claude Van Damme lifts the mascot up and it starts chopping off like the
Yeah.
mascot's head.
Yep.
And you're hearing the person scream inside, and I'm like, did the movie forget that that head is fake? And like, I was I was red faced, heaving, like I was laughing.
That was
so
amazing.
hard.
I could not breathe at that point.
I appreciated the fact that they didn't have, because he's a firefighter, they don't have him as like some insane martial artist, like being able to do all the typical Jean Claude Van Damme. Like he doesn't do any splits in this movie.
No splits, but he does lots of kicks. There's lots of kicks, but I do like, I mean, the Chekhov spray gun. That his son has bought a water gun. He's like, you know what I can do? I can fill this with some ladder fluid, and I can get a ladder. And because I am a fireman with my perfect Pennsylvania accent, I can kill them all.
Flawless Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Darren from the United States. Yep, that's.
I think we need to bring up obviously in the beginning of the film. He also mentions in a throwaway line that he used to play hockey to one of the hockey players. He used
to play goalie, semi-pro. It's nothing like you guys. Because I can't even remember how or why this happens. But this is maybe the greatest part of the movie, that he's kind of trying to avoid the bad guys, and and the main goalie has been injured and is just basically unconscious. Sick, right? He undresses him without waking up the goalie, and then goes into the Stanley Cup and plays in goal for 10 minutes of the movie. And I'm like,
this is game 7, guys. Game 7.
Yeah.
I think I texted you guys 7 times. Guys, I've just shouted, I can't believe this just happened at the television over and over again.
The movie completely switches genres at that moment, and it's like one of those like 90s family movies where it's like the dad isn't always there, but now he's like playing. It becomes Jingle All the Way for like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
and and I was like,
and he signals to
does
his
the
son.
I love you thing.
Yeah,
and
which would be the climax in that movie.
And it's also like the other thing that said it, because he's also expressly told his son, who's sprayed his sister and made her run off. He goes, "You do not leave this chair. Even if the stadium is falling down around you, you do not leave." And I go, well, I got a funny feeling the stadium's going to fall down around this chair.
I wonder if this is a setup. Yeah.
But I love that they said that. I was like, this movie is written by like children. I mean, I was getting into like the people, the Baldwins. It's story by Karen Baldwin, produced by Howard Baldwin. It's like somebody's wife just wrote a script and were like, make this movie for me, and no changes whatsoever. And like, all right, baby, we're going to make this movie.
Yeah.
And to be clear, you're not saying that as a negative.
No, I'm saying, thank God this movie got made.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
I think the writer of this movie, they were a helicopter expert, right? Like they understand how helicopters work, correct?
That is the moment for me where I went back and watched it again. I woke my wife up because I was not just laughing, I was screaming laughing. I was in full-blown hysterics. I am leaning forward, tears running down my face, and I'm like, I said, I've got to back up and watch that again. So there is a scene right at the end. It's on the cover of the movie. It's just a helicopter gets blown up. And it is the worst thing I've ever seen. Like the amount of times that we cut. I was like, baby, watch. Just FYI, there's a helicopter in this shot. And it cuts from helicopter to Jean Claude Van Damme, to helicopter, to close-up of Powers Booth, to close-up of Jean Claude, to another close-up of Powers Booth as he falls even. It is the slowest falling helicopter in the history of movies. It follows no physics whatsoever, and it looked terrible. And I was seeing, guys, that they actually had a 400-foot crane that could pick up and lower the helicopter. 9 cameras recorded the event. It was filmed several times, and there were hundreds of emergency vehicles on standby. In the case of an emergency, I didn't believe for 1 second there was a real helicopter because it looked fucking awful. It was so funny.
I didn't think I could see a climax of a movie that looked worse than Jaws 4, but they pulled it off. It looked so bad. It was like, I can't believe there's that much effort into it. I feel like for the people listening at home, there's no way to like really describe how slow this thing is. Like, if you remember the Austin Powers scene where there's like the steamroller and the guy is standing there, and it's like 5 minutes. It's like that. It is like that slow. And everyone is just kind of watching it like, it's going to crash, right? Like
It-
I
is
thought
it
it was.
still?
keeps going.
Is
I thought it was
still going?
flawless. I'm sorry. I thought it was perfect.
It was, but you know, Will, you that's the great example. It is. It's like that scene, but 3 times longer. And it's like
it's so much longer.
the thing is that if it was a spoof movie, it would have been one of the funniest spoofs I've ever seen in my life. It would have taken so little to make this just a spoof, and people would regard it as the greatest spoof action comedy ever made. But they played it serious. But that moment, I mean, guys, if you're listening right now, go to YouTube and type in "sudden death helicopter crash scene."
Yeah.
Because I mean, it takes about 25 shots for that helicopter to go from above to below and crash, and it's like confounding in every single way, truly confounding. And I think I've never been so entertained in my entire life.
I think you just need to recut this movie with like a laugh track into it.
I think that's a bloody great idea.
Yeah,
I think that would hit 50 million views on YouTube in a week. that was just, I couldn't believe it. I considering the build up of the movie and the way that they're like, you know, they shot it, you know, it's shot quite nicely.
It's a good looking action. Like I wish McTiernan or something like a heavy hitting director did this. Like this is very much a 90s action movie. It is super violent. But it's so funny. I can't unsee it in the pastiche of it being like shot as a comedy, you know, or written as a comedy.
It definitely didn't shy away from just being 100% a clone of trying to be Die Hard. The way the bad guys move and the way they're shot and the music that's playing. I remember, like, you know, all these bad guys are turning up, and then it's the guy in glasses shows up, and I go, $50 says that's the hacker, and then literally the next scene, click, 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 I go, fucking told you it's the hacker. It's like, it's movie.
I do appreciate Powers Booth as such a fantastic villain in this movie.
Oh, he's incredible. Like he just totally rules in this film.
That's what elevates the movies. Powers Booth is playing this just dead straight and killing it, and killing everyone else.
Yeah, shooting everyone, right? Point blank.
Yeah, just in no regard for, like, he kills like some unexpected hostages. Like there's some things where you're like, oh, I understand movie rules, like Hans Gruber, this guy's gonna like do that. No, he's just straight up like
gets what he needs, and you're done.
This lady's crying too loud, bam. Like he's just so scary. And
I want to take a second to appreciate his comically hilarious disguise at the end of the movie. Because the daughter has this thing where she stamps his hand, and it just pops up later when he's trying to escape, and the camera pans from his hand up, and he's wearing this like blonde mustache, blonde wig, full on Penguins fan attire, and that's the guy. That's him.
That was another one of those. I screamed. I'm sitting there going, this stupid fucking hand stamp. It's at the beginning, it's in the middle. I go, how is this gonna play? How is this eventually gonna play out? And when it finally played out, like it's those two things. One of them was the bad guy recognizing Jean Claude Van Damme is the goalie. By no one, you can't see anybody. He sees it from across the stadium. That's
his
the guy.
teammates didn't recognize it wasn't their teammate.
And there's even a great scene where like Jean Claude Van Damme comes back from playing ice hockey, and they had to do him getting redressed scene because they had to show him like putting a shirt on and tying his boots up, and then he had that stupid like the bag that they gave him for all of his stuff is just a shoe bag.
Yeah,
just give him a backpack. He looks ridiculous the entire time running around with the shoe bag over his shoulder.
I love that they had to show us him getting out of the gear. Him getting into the gear, the director is like, no, that's fine. People will buy that. But after that, he's like, people are going to wonder, how did he get out of it?
Well, you're positing, like we brought up the same thing in the Hard Ticket to Hawaii. Like you have to show the character of the outfit and then into a different outfit. Otherwise, the audience is going to be very confused.
Yeah, I like the bit where Powers Booth did a bunch of like explaining what was going on by going, let's get in the hot tub and talk about this.
That's the one thing this movie was missing.
Yeah. Man, I'm going to go watch Hard Ticket to Hawaii later. I need some absolutely random for no reason boobs on screen. That's a quality movie making right there. But yeah, the fact that it's this hand stamp that undoes him was just, from beginning to end, from top to bottom, left to right, this movie makes confounding choices, but it is so entertaining. And that's how I describe the movie, as like I said, this movie is terrible and I think I love it.
Yeah.
That is the thing. It's why? Why, guys? Why is this such a fun movie to watch? It's terrible.
God, there's so many things about it. Like the kitchen scene in particular, like not even like during the fight scenes, multiple fight scenes, like the fact that they go back to the kitchen
fight scenes.
Fight scene is so funny. But even before that, when they're like prepping all the meals, like, so a little bit about me is I, for a time, worked security at like stadiums, like for the Diamondbacks and Phoenix Suns.
Oh wow! So this is like a documentary to you.
Yeah. So 100% accurate. So I'm watching.
This is why you can't be around helicopters.
Exactly. But I'm watching the movie and I'm just like, where is the gourmet chef like kitchen, like the 5-star Michelin? I mean, no. And it's like stadiums are all pretty modular. It's all meant for like things people like bring stuff in and set up. So that's why like the machinist shop makes no sense. I'm like that does not exist.
Why are there?
But, like,
why is there a metal workshop?
But like the chef thing was killing me because I'm like, he's literally Chef Boyardee. He looks like Chef Boyardee. He's got the hat.
Yeah.
He's making like shrimp cocktails, and I'm like, what? Where? Like, where would this go? Like, because the VIP booths, it's all like stuff like they bring in their own chefs and stuff. It's all on the top floor. So I'm like, where is this? Like, it's such another world. Clearly made by people who don't work at stadiums.
For me, it's like it's the metalwork scene randomly thrown in for him to build using his fireman skills a weapon that he only uses once 2 minutes later. It's like
immediately
you have an A-team style building sort of like montage, and then he used it, shoot, hits the guy in the neck once. All right, I guess we don't need that anymore. Paid off. There's that 10 minutes of movie done. Let's move on. And then, like I said, the kitchen scene, like you were saying, Will, is they had a kitchen scene that was so long that they found so many ways to use the kitchen and make it dangerous in a fight scene. But they were like, guys, there's still 4 more things. Let's fight scene. Let's do it in the kitchen again and like burn him on this thing and drown him in that thing. And I'm like,
oh my god, really the I forget which fight scene it was. The hand going into the deep fryer, that was
oh my god
brutal. But you're right. This is like a torture chamber of in a kitchen of these like slow moving conveyor belts. And
just 10 different things that can injure or kill you in a kitchen. I was like, this is amazing. Yeah, it's like the anti-John Wick. I swear. To watch the movie again.
But now that it's like now looking at it through the lens of it being a comedy, it makes so much more sense.
Yes,
everything.
Just all it needs is the laugh track, and I think we'd be golden.
I want some. I bet if someone hasn't already done that, this is something that I guess we know what we need to do when we launch our Patreon.
Adding a comedy laugh track to this movie.
Yeah, I mean that's the bit where I said I only saw that right before we logged on. I was doing a little bit of research, and I was like, it was originally written as a spoof. That I'm like, everything kind of falls into place when you look at it through that lens.
Definitely.
This is hilarious.
Thanks for ruining this movie for me, you fucking asshole.
I swear, this movie is such a treasure.
It's great.
It's so
and it's
wild.
and I think it's slipped under the radar too from that era of action films, like your cliffhangers and your speeds and things like that.
There was so
this
many.
Movie, like it could easily get swept under. And I think if it, nothing against Jean Claude Van Damme, I think if it did have a bigger name, like a bigger action name, granted, he was up there in the pantheon of everyone else we mentioned, like your Schwarzeneggers, Stallones, and your Bruce Willis is like,
because he popped off. Time Cop was the year before, and that was a big movie,
and same director too, and like, I think if it had a different action star attached to it, maybe it would have done either worse or better. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Well, I think the biggest problem is this movie in particular came out too late. Like if this movie came out in like 88, 89, I think it would have hit.
It's a Die Hard clone 7 years too late.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Because like by this time, like we said, True Lies would come out. Terminator 2 had already come out. Stallone was Dredd out by then? Judge Dredd, Demolition Man, the 2 best movies he ever made.
Around 92, 95.
But Cliffhanger for sure. So like by this time, the caliber of action films had been raised so high.
Wow.
And Jean-Claude he's an odd action star. He's just kind of weird. I love him. Like
especially at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Jean-Claude is great, but he's not Darren from Philadelphia. That's just not.
I tell you this much though, guys. There are 2 movies that I think we have to watch as a result of watching Sudden Death. Now, one, is the 2018
slap
British,
shot.
British film Final Score, which is considered to basically be the British version of Sudden Death, where the hero, played by Dave Bautista, battles terrorists against the backdrop of a closely contested soccer match, and he must neutralize them before the game, the end of the game.
I thought you were going to say Die Hard at a cricket match.
Oh, dude, oh man, that would have been amazing.
Be a 4-hour movie.
But taking the spoof idea and script of Sudden Death, they had, and this is apparently on Netflix, guys, the remake titled Welcome to Sudden Death, produced by Netflix in 2020, starring Michael J. White. So there is now, it was released in September 2020 to mostly negative reviews, but Welcome to Sudden Death is, I guess we have to watch this movie. Yep, I'm 100% going to watch this.
Wait, it's the same script, but like how they intended it, or it's just a parody of
It's a remake of Sudden Death. Single location action film in the mold of Die Hard. The heist storyline runs parallel to and sometimes intersects with an ice hockey. This, instead of it being ice hockey, it's basketball. There you go. I'm on board. Huh. I know what I'm going to watch later. I'm going to watch that.
I mean, it's a movie starring Black Dynamite. I'm on board. Yeah, absolutely.
100%. Now, you guys were referencing Jean Claude Van Damme's flawless Pennsylvania accent. I mean, if anyone ever got into the character of somebody from Pennsylvania, it's Jean Claude Van Damme. But this is the interesting part, because, of course, the whole point of our podcast is to find the movie that defines the state better than any other. Now, all three of these movies do an incredibly good job of putting us in Pennsylvania or Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or Amish country. It's a gladiatorial fight to the death on this one, guys, because I couldn't even think. Because the location work of Jack Reacher, the Sudden Death, I remember texting you guys, you know what this movie needs is one or two more establishing shots of this stadium. There's only 6. At all times, they have to go, guys, do you know we're at a stadium? You know, we're at a stadium, by the way?
I was watching, when I watched Jack Reacher, there's not one thing that made me feel like this was in Pennsylvania at all. It's shooting opposite like a stadium. It too features a stadium. It's like its opening shot is a stadium. It's a baseball stadium. Yeah, but without the Pittsburgh Penguin in it, I don't understand where this movie takes place.
That's very true.
The only landmark I recognize, and I'll stand by that.
You know what? You're not wrong. I mean, the thing is that you could, and you often are the one that brings this up, but you could take the Pennsylvania out of Jack Reacher. You could shoot that movie anywhere. But I
always thought it was set in DC for some reason. I don't, or maybe that's the second one.
That's the sequel. Also, it's that and New Orleans in the sequel. But that being said, though, it is entirely shot in Pittsburgh. Everything is a location shot. Every single thing is a location shot. So it is swimming in it. You've got Sudden Death, which has given us the exact same shots as Jack Reacher, if maybe not the same locations.
Just done better
at times. But then Witness, like I was watching Witness, just going. I was like, well, it's giving us so much. It gave us a city, but it's giving us that other side, the Pennsylvania Dutch.
That rural, like that side, when I used to go like fishing with my dad, and we drive upstate into Pennsylvania. Like that was the Pennsylvania I knew growing up, like that very rural kind of calm Amish area. That resonated with me for sure. Like that was to me, that was the Pennsylvania that I knew.
See, this is why I think it's tricky though, right? Because Witness obviously is doing it really well, but it's giving us a very, very specific kind of Pennsylvania, which is Amish country, right? Yeah. Whereas then, Jack Reacher is giving us just the reality of Pittsburgh, and then Sudden Death is giving us blue collar Pennsylvania city workers kind of thing. So I'm like, you can't give it to Witness.
You've got actual NHL players in it. You've got the announcers. This movie
actual announcers,
black and yellow.
So 100%, because as Witness, so obviously like a front runner. But I'm like, but that's like saying all of Pennsylvania is Amish people. So
it's tough. I will say in Witness though, we do get a healthy mix of city life I guess not a healthy mix. It is.
It's a really
Hang on.
unhealthy.
As I said it,
Yeah.
I was like, wait a second, no,
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
Murders, drugs,
hot
betrayal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hot take,
It's-
dude.
yeah. The
The
moment
real
it left my
Pennsylvania.
lips, the real Pennsylvania. Yeah, the moment it left my mouth, I was like, well, wait a
We'll cut that in post.
minute. Yeah, but we do get more
Yeah.
of Pennsylvania. But yeah, Jack Reacher. Well, theoretically, I do agree that it could take place anywhere. The fact that it does take place in Pennsylvania, and they give you like the sprawl of it, like because there you also get the city, but then when he goes to the gun range, he goes to a more
That's
Yeah.
in Ohio.
kind of area.
The movie
Oh,
ends
that's
in
right.
Macquarie for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
A Christopher
Man.
Macquarie, if you will.
that was his demand to make the movie.
Yep.
He's like,
I knew it.
must.
I was like, I think we had that on the text thread. I was like,
Yeah.
Christopher. His only stipulation was we have to end this movie in a quarry because it's my name.
But like, kind of like Will was saying,
yeah.
is the geography of Pittsburgh. I feel like I've been to
Yeah.
Pittsburgh because of Jack Reacher. You know, those bridges and where the stadium is and where that the parking garage is and all that kind of stuff.
And I will say, for the plot of Jack Reacher, the stadium, the bridge, and all that has to be in certain spots in order for the plot to work.
Yeah.
So you could, if you were to take it out of Pennsylvania or Pittsburgh and put it somewhere else, you would have to change the geography. You would have to change that part of the plot.
And
Like,
I want to say, like, because One Shot is my favorite Jack Reacher book. So when they announced they were making that one, that got me very excited. But it's very, very similar to the book. So, and the thing is, the books are always set somewhere else. So I think Lee Child had done his research in as much as the layout of the city enabled him to then write this scene that sort of plays out, because it played out very similarly to the way I remembered the book going.
Was that book also set in Pittsburgh?
I think so, yeah. I am 99% sure. I will double check right now, but I am like
Nerd.
like, that thing is, like, yeah, once you've read all of them, they do.
I need my books told to me on screen.
Yeah, I think I texted you guys. The only book I've read is the movie Time Cop.
To quote Jesse the Body Ventura and Predator, I ain't got time to read.
It's my favorite quote from that movie.
No, so here you go. One Shot is a small Indiana city. So it's been put into Pittsburgh. Interestingly enough, so there you go. So
sudden death is the winner.
Okay. So if you want to do that, and then find all right, then
I'm just kidding.
No, let's push Jack Reacher off to the side then. Like, okay, that counts against it. Okay, fine.
I just think from a film standpoint, regardless, I think that film could be set in any other area too. I mean, it's could sudden death, like you said. It's
no, you couldn't fight a penguin if you said it in another city.
I mean, I'm not well versed in my NHL mascots, but sure, maybe
it would be amazing to see Jean Claude fight Gritty. Like that would be that would be an incredible fight.
Yeah. Or the Philly Fanatic for
Oh my God, there we go.
No.
But you can't take anything Pennsylvania out of Witness, can you? It is true. It is the pure, like, beating heart of it. And like I said, like at the beginning, is how I felt like it was just so respectful of the culture. It didn't play it off as a character or something weird. It was just reality, and it was just people, and it was just helped the story sort of kind of develop. I thought it was such a beautiful movie as well that, like, for me, it's like I want to give it to Witness, but I'm looking for a compelling argument not to. And it's like, is it just because sudden death?
I've got two compelling arguments for you. Kitchen fight scene number 1, kitchen fight scene number 2.
Damn it. That's you can't argue with either of those. Both of those are now my favorite things. So
what if I told you the person in that penguin suit was Amish?
Oh,
Jeez.
Sudden death wins.
Oh my God! Yeah, if the person in the penguin suit had also been Alexander Godunov, then it would that would have been
my God.
Damn.
Then he wouldn't have died. He would have come back. And...
Yeah, that final surprise. So yeah, what do you guys think? Is it Witness? Is Witness too Amish? What do you guys think?
I didn't think it was Amish enough.
I think because you get you do get even though it's brief, you do get the city aspect in Witness. You do get more. Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards Witness as well. it's hard because I was for a while going into this thinking maybe the Edge was Jack Reacher. But even though if you were to take it out of Pittsburgh or if you were to take it out of there, you would have to change the geography of how like the actual crime happens. That wouldn't really affect the story.
Yeah, I mean,
it would just literally, it's just a plot detail that doesn't affect the outcome.
If they could rework all of Baby Driver to fit in Atlanta, I'm sure they could figure out a sniping angle in another fucking city. It wouldn't matter.
True.
I'll give you that. All right. So it looks like...
I love Jack Reacher.
Me too. I think it's one of my favorite movies. That's why I wanted to do Pennsylvania so we could talk about it. It's like, but then you brought Sudden Death, and all bets were off.
I'm sorry. Does Pittsburgh have a giant Jack Reacher statue? No, they have a Jean Claude Van Damme statue outside of the Penguin Stadium. Look it up.
It's just him.
Don't look it up.
I'm looking it up. I'm not seeing it.
Look it up. Look it up on Truth Social. That's where it will be.
It's just him doing a split.
Yeah, I know. I was like, at no point did he hold the building together by doing the splits. I was so disappointed.
That was a negative. That is a negative in the movie. It's no splits.
Arguably, its only flaw.
I didn't clock any dick punches too, which he is known for.
And no gratuitous shot of Jean Claude Van Damme's buns.
No buns. Yeah.
No, there's usually...
that's another mark against.
No buns, none.
Yeah, I ain't got no buns, huh? Yeah. All right. So outside of Jean Claude Van Damme's buttocks, it sounds like the movie that we are landing on to define Pennsylvania for now on the United States of Movie podcast is the 1985 movie Witness with Harrison Ford. Highly recommend you guys at home watch it.
Yeah.
It is fantastic. What's interesting though is the also rans, guys, is movies that we could have gone, because there's quite a lot of movies, good movies set in Pennsylvania. I was The Furnace, that Christian Bale movie, a very slow burn of a movie. Unstoppable, that Tony Scott action movie. Chris Pine, Denzel Washington, underrated.
Die Hard on a Train.
Split as well. Any movies that you guys were circling?
Rocky 1 through 5.
Oh yeah, of course. The Rocky movies.
6. Yeah.
And Creed. I
feel like everyone listening to this podcast is screaming right now that we didn't mention Rocky until
it was too obvious. If we'd gone with Rocky, it's like there's no. If you gotta go again, I think when we return, I'd love to bring like Rocky 1, Rocky Balboa, and Creed, and see which one comes out.
I was gonna say, my question for you guys, maybe something we offline, but when we go back and do the state again, do we include the movie that we picked and put two new movies up against
I think so, yes. I think probably. Because it's what has to happen is we need to bring something to topple the movie that has won.
Right.
And so like, it may, you may lose 100% that, Okay. So whatever movies that we bring back, when we circle back around, it's going to have to take out Witness. But were there any other movies that you guys really want to talk about outside of because Rocky, 100%, Creed, anything else that you guys were circling?
That was mostly, that was just the first thing that popped in my head was any of the Rocky films.
What's really interesting about Pennsylvania is there are a lot. There's a lot of movies, good movies you've heard of that are set there, that are made there, that I'm like, that I want to kind of get into. So, I think next time...
Did they make sequels to Sudden Death?
Well, yes. It's on Netflix and stars Michael J. White.
I'm watching that right now.
It is, honestly, I'm intrigued. I'm definitely gonna have to watch that.
Yeah. I came very close to picking Rocky 4 just because I love talking about Rocky 4.
Was that the one with Tommy Gunn?
Have you seen? That's 5. Rocky 4 is the one where Rocky fixes the Cold War.
Yeah, he beats Russia.
Have you guys seen the recut?
I refuse. They take the robot out. I refuse. Unacceptable.
So for those at home that don't know, like during the pandemic, basically Sylvester Stallone went back into the edit room and basically cut a bunch of stuff out and added 40 minutes to Rocky 4, the director's cut. I'm fascinated. I don't know how to watch it, but I want to watch it.
I think it's on the 4K. I'm intrigued to watch it, but because I think the whole reasoning behind it was to bring it tonally closer to the Creed franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is like you're watching a Saturday morning cartoon, and then when you get to Creed, you're like, oh, this is like a sequel to that movie.
Yeah.
It's very strange, but I think the corniness and the cheesiness and the Happy Birthday Polly robot are what makes that movie.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
And so to remove that cheesiness,
You hear that, Lucas?
Yeah. I just don't think it works. I think Creed is doing just fine. I don't think you need to recut an old movie to match the new ones. So
I'm interested in the intellectual, like, just
Yes.
exploration of the complete randomness of this, which we will 100% get into when we return to Pennsylvania. You know, Rocky's going to come a knocking at some point, and I'm compelled and interested to see which one gets brought to the table. But of course, the question we also have to answer now is, where are we going next week? I only decided this as like 5 minutes before we logged on, because I was just talking to a very good friend of mine who is currently in the city of Boston. We're going to go to Massachusetts for our next one. There's a lot of great movies that we can do for Massachusetts. I can't spell Massachusetts, but I know some great movies that are set there. The thing is, I can see in Ryan's eyes that he's already looking for a sudden death level, Raytheon style, complete clusterfuck of a movie to absolutely make my week, and I can't wait to see where we land. It's going to be a good one, guys. Great movies, by the way.
Yeah,
I had so much fun this week watching these movies. They all had something about them that I truly loved. Sudden Death gave me such an emotional outlet. I honestly have been on cloud 9 since I watched Sudden Death.
I'm going to watch it again.
Over here.
Yeah.
I 100%. I think I may have to own that movie. Renting that movie was the biggest mistake of my life.
You got to watch the director's cut where the helicopter scene's 40 minutes longer.
Only way it can be improved.
Yeah.
So the official movie for Pennsylvania is, of course, Witness here on the United States of Movie Podcast. Next week, we're going to be heading to Massachusetts. We're going to be parking our car at Harvard Yard and having a great. How about them apples? Ooh, ooh, ooh! All kinds of.
I was going to say, what if we made it really hard for ourselves and just threw out every Matt Damon and Ben Affleck movie?
Oh no!
We play this on hard mode.
Yeah, I like that.
Those are the top 3 movies I was looking at. God damn it, Will! I think that's a great idea. Let's go looking deep. But yeah, next week we'll be tackling Massachusetts. We're going to be figuring it out. If you haven't watched Sudden Death, stop everything that you're doing right now. Go and watch it. Feel free to reach out to us and let us know what you thought. You can find me online as Ollie Pettigrew, Ollie_Pettigrew, or at That Englishman in Texas. You can find Will as Entitled Willennial. And like we were saying before, we're now putting together some merch. Ryan's got some great designs. We're going to drop that, put some links up so you guys can find them, so we can all go around wearing our It's Wraithen Time t-shirts.
Yes.
Ryan, Will, thanks once again for a great episode, for some great movies. I can't wait to see you guys next week from Massachusetts. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. Thanks to all of you guys at home for listening and watching for the latest episode of the United States of Movie Podcast. We'll see you next time.